What exactly are you doing? What is this surgery?
We have a prototype artificial cornea made out of synthetic material. We're trying to see if it might work in rabbits.
This rabbit is one of many participating in a trial of synthetic cornea implants at a Johns Hopkins University research facility in Maryland.
How would this translate into humans?
Directly. I've had 3 corneal transplants.
Wow.
All of my transplants came from cadavers. This is a plastic cornea. You can put this in a wrapper just like you do suture. You just open it up and you do the surgery. No, I know.
Robert Adams is the director of Research Animal Resources. He oversees the care of the research animals, which are used for medical testing.
So this is a pretty typical animal room. It holds somewhere between 700 and 900 cages.
This is like an apartment complex.
Yeah, it's like a condo. Probably most of them in this room are genetically modified.
And so what does that mean?
Well, they either put a gene in or taken a gene out. She's checking her mice to see if they are transgenic.
We're looking for the Marfan mutation that was inserted into the mouse.
So she's going to take a small piece of their tail, and that's going to be analyzed to see if the gene is there.
And so what I'm going to do with these mice, if they have the Marfan trait, is treat them with a specific drug.
We have fish, we have frogs, bats, owls, rabbits, guinea pigs, multiple species of monkey, pigs, dogs, cats. No sheep right now. We have rats in here. Do you want to see rats?
Sure.
A mouse is good as far as genetics go, all that stuff. But if you want to do surgery on them, they're only this big. So you can do more things with a rat than you can with a mouse. You know, you can use 100 rather than 2 monkeys.
Right.
Monkeys are extremely expensive. These were about $7,000.
Would you sell me a monkey?
No.
We have some of our monkeys on treatments every day, and the one thing we found that when they're tired of everything else, they'll still eat the Starburst.
There he goes.
Okay, we'll go look at the pig. You see that area on its side?
Yeah.
So that's the knee from another pig.
So that is a knee.
Yep. That knee is no different than transplanting a kidney or a heart or a lung, but you can see it.
Right.
So it's far easier to know is something going wrong by looking at that.
When it comes to development of medicines in the United States and around the world, why is this center and other centers like this important to that process?
Well, in the United States, most biomedical research is done at institutions like this. Pharmaceutical companies, you know, they talk about how many billions of dollars it costs to produce a drug, to develop a drug. So they're not, while they do basic research, a lot of the basic research is done here. And then if it looks like it's going to work out, then it'll go up to the higher level to a pharmaceutical company.
Once the safety and efficacy of a new drug is determined through animal research, the preclinical phase ends and the drug moves on to FDA clinical trials. In order to gain FDA approval, pharmaceutical companies need to make it through multiple phases of clinical trials to find out how the drug affects human beings. For much of the 20th century, medical experiments were conducted on prisoners. Holmesburg Prison in Pennsylvania was one such facility where inmates were the subjects of testing. Author Alan Hornblum took us on a tour of the now shuttered prison.
This is H block, and H block was the block that was taken over by the doctors at the University of Pennsylvania who used it to develop all sorts of ointments and chemicals and things.
So this is really, I mean, it's a prison, but in some ways this is a laboratory.
This county prison became an adjunct of the University of Pennsylvania's medical school. You had 2-3 dozen different experiments for different private and public sector operations, including the U.S. Army. By 1974, news about the experiments here become so negative, so problematic, that the city leaders shut it down. That was replicated at similar facilities around the country.
But a growing pharmaceutical industry still needed to test new drugs on human subjects. So for the first phase of clinical testing, they now hire clinical research organizations, or CROs, which do the work of finding participants and running the tests. The biggest CRO is Covance Inc., which has over 80 facilities around the world. We went to Evansville, Indiana, to meet some clinical trial participants.
Every study, you'll hear about that study where they cut off your toe and sew it back and you get like lots of money. That's not real. It's just one of those urban myth things.
I'm at the Corner Pocket in Evansville, Indiana. This is a hangout for human guinea pigs. Are you a career lab rat?
Absolutely. This is my main gig. So far this year, I've made $21,000.
I've done 30 plus studies. I mean, I used to not even look at studies below $4,000.
Wow, okay.
Some drugs are more profitable than others.
I don't have a whole lot of other career options. I'm a lawyer, but I don't practice.
You're a lawyer?
Yeah.
Wow, what happened?
I have some competency issues.
You're not the guy with the 10-hour Viagra erection, right?
No, that wasn't me.
That wasn't you?
Thank God.
I was doing a study in Nebraska probably last September. The side effects I was feeling was like a tingling sensation in my hands and like my eyebrows, but it got better.
Do you feel that doing all these drugs for so many years has affected you physically or mentally?
I compare it to my college days when, you know, you go to a party and somebody hands you some pills.
We've been in many studies together.
Robert, a career lab rat, moved to Evansville because of the numerous clinical trials taking place there. He uses the town as his home base for traveling the country in search of his next gig.
I'm a freaking guinea pig lab rat, and I love it. You know what I mean?
How many years have you been doing this now?
7.
7 years.
7 years. When the mortgage crisis hit, I lost my income, I went homeless. Someone said, hey, you can do a clinical trial. You can take an experimental drug, and you can make yourself $2,000, $3,000 within a week. Ching! I've taken everything from Alzheimer's, cancer drugs, HIV, cocktails. I literally ran with it. I went from Massachusetts to Seattle, Seattle to Miami, Florida, Miami, over to Wisconsin. You know, I would run anywhere and chase the money.
Robert took me along to a study he's doing in Knoxville, Tennessee, 300 miles from Evansville. So this study that you're going to right now, how much is to pay? What is required of you to do it?
The study pays $4,100. The requirements are that I am a healthy, drug-free individual.
Eligibility or requirements vary from trial to trial. Subjects in this clinical trial must pass blood and urine tests to ensure that they're healthy and that they haven't done another study within 30 days. Does it affect you mentally, being in the hospital for so long and not really working, you know?
I work it. And you know what? I'm using my body to help science today, okay? I don't have to wait to get into a car accident and die to donate my organs. I get to watch the results and make money from it.
Right. The next morning, Robert checked into the UT Medical Center for a 14-day trial of a cholesterol medication. At any given time, there are multiple studies underway.
So this is basically what the job is. You come in here, you dose, they come and take your readings. Every few hours, their vitals are taken, their blood's taken, they have timed meals, and they just observe what's going on in your body after you take the medicine.
How's this going so far? Did the medicine this morning make you sleepy at all?
I haven't felt anything so far.
No, for me, I'm fine. Yeah.
Good, that's the right answer.
Dr. William Smith oversees the clinical trials at UT Knoxville and sees value in using career lab rats for longer-term studies, since they can handle the rigors of testing over many weeks.
Not all professional subjects are the same, but we try to use them in a very limited niche with a very long stay study where it's really helpful to have people that you know can tolerate being in a study unit for 2 or 3 weeks or even longer. At this point, at least, we can find no deleterious effects of having done so many studies.
Wow. After having their blood taken and their vitals checked, the only other responsibility is to eat. which is how they often can catch up with other lab rats.
What study is it for you?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, probably like 70.
70?
Where'd you travel from, or do you live here?
I live in Florida.
Do you do studies in Miami area?
No, I stay on the other end. I stay in Daytona.
How's the Orlando clinic?
If you've been to Koblenz and Daytona, it's about the same. Which one of you is just another lab rat?
That's JALR.
I've never met you, but it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure.
I've heard of you.
Robert's roommate Paul founded a website that lab rats use to track down studies. He's a bit of a celebrity in the world of clinical trials.
So, wow, what's going on here? This is...
All right, this is gonna be a fursuit I'm gonna have made. It's like a full body fursuit.
So you want to actually dress up like a rat?
Right, it's to advertise my website.
Do you like the environment here?
Yeah, I do. It's a very structured environment and you can't leave, so it's a completely separate world when you're in here.
It's actually quite difficult to imagine staying in a room like this for 2 weeks straight.
This was just something I put together. Veins, needles, and blood, drawing. Satan falling, God's calling.
These guys can't even leave the facility. Yes, they can consume social media or watch television, but they're pretty much trapped.
I see a vision, dog. Too many drugs, pharmaceutical thugs.
A lot of these guys have done up to 50, 60, even 100 clinical trials.
Yeah, I take drugs to make money to pay bills. Ain't that funny? It's not, but it's reality. I died already. Another lab rat casualty.
Some of the lab rats say this lifestyle is not sustainable.
I'm to the point now where I'm looking at other options. It's not a means to an end. People who think they're gonna make a living indefinitely, it's just not gonna be possible.
Yeah.
A lot of people age out. I'm kind of near my end game because I'm just having a lot more problems as far as my blood draws. I have a lot of scar tissue in my arm.
How many times do you think you've gotten your blood drawn?
At least 5,000 times.
5,000 times.
Yeah, but if you need $5,000, there's very few places you can get it legally in 2 weeks.
While clinical trials have given professional lab rats a quick way to make a buck, there's no quick way to make a drug. The lab rats take part only in phase 1 of testing, which is followed by at least 2 additional phases, which take several years. Even after all this testing, there's always some uncertainty about how drugs will perform once they're made available to millions of people in the open market.
Major news today about the world's largest drug maker, Pfizer.
The arthritis pain medicine Bextra was touted to doctors.
Merck marketed Vioxx as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis for 3 years. Evidence showed the drug doubled the risk of heart attack and stroke.
How effective are clinical trials and preclinical trials to understanding the safety and efficacy of a medication?
They tend to be very good at testing the efficacy of what a pill does. They're not as good on tracking safety because they typically are just too small. The drug has a capability of causing a problem. They test it in very few people, don't see the problem, and now they're going to go and give it to millions of people. When you start to take a drug from that really small population and give it to a really big one, you're going to start to see problems. Once a drug is marketed, that's when the drug is going to go from this really small population of people who are being tested on for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, to many millions of people who may have to take that drug for the rest of their lives.
So all the first users are actually the real guinea pigs.
That's how I feel about it. The real clinical trial begins once it's marketed to the general population.